And Sonoma Media Investments, please stay seated. Thank you. Somebody clapped over here. That was nice. I just want to welcome you to the first, this is loud, the first event of ours called The Rest of the Story. And this event series is created and was created to get you guys a little deeper into the magazine. We only have a certain amount of pages that we can show photos and have great, beautiful writing. So we figured, let's take something that's from the magazine and bring it to life. So this is The Rest of the Story. We are really excited to be here today and to have our first event with Charlie Palmer. I loved, when we were putting this magazine together, the photos that came in, the story that finally came in. It was just so beautiful, it was so perfect. We knew we had to bring it to life for everybody. We knew people would love it. And hopefully you've all been enjoying the food and the wine from our 6 wineries that have come. And I hope you will continue to do that after this. If you haven't gotten a copy of the current January-February issue, it's out there. Please grab one. And the new issue, March-April, is hitting the stands momentarily. So I'm going to sneak peek, but you can't have it. But it's great. It's Our Favorite Things. 18 pages of Our Favorite Things, and a great story on the drought, which is a significant issue happening right now. Despite all the rain that you might see in the forecast, it's still going to be a huge issue. So I wanted to mention that the ticket prices that you paid today, thank you for buying a ticket. A portion of that is going to the Sonoma County Farm Bureau, and I wanted to read the reason that it is going to this, and this is from Charlie. The Sonoma County Farm Bureau embodies everything that we embrace here at Dry Creek Kitchen, Hotel Healdsburg, and all of our properties. The proceeds from this event will specifically go to the Farm to the Table Culinary Scholarship that is offered through the Farm Bureau Foundation and is aimed at agricultural students who are going into the culinary arts. Their effort is to support young people who value food sourcing and are dedicated to incorporating fresh produce, meat, and cheese into their culinary repertoire. This is key to the restaurant industry that we work in today. We strive to help instill this philosophy on food into all of the young, aspiring culinary students and new cooks coming into our kitchens. Plus, we'll always support any initiative that supports student scholarships, especially culinary ones. So we're really proud to be donating money to the Farm Bureau today, and thank you for that. With that, I'm going to introduce you to Sonoma Magazine's editor, Kathy Barnett, who will conduct a wonderful, thrilling, and exciting interview with Charlie. Here you go.
Thank you, Michael, for lowering those expectations. And thank all of you for joining us for the first of these conversations that are prompted by Sonoma Magazine. If you're here, you know all about why we're starting with Charlie Palmer, who's one of America's most respected chefs right here in our backyard. He runs a hospitality empire made up of a dozen or so restaurants, along with boutique hotels and wine shops, they tell me, all across the nation. It all began in New York in 1988 when Charlie was just 28 and opened his flagship Ariel restaurant, and winning him immediate and profound acclaim for his progressive American cuisine. Eventually, it brought him to Sonoma County, and this is where his farm-to-table ethic and his insistence on fresh local ingredients brought him, and by association us, more attention. So if you're here, you also know all about the James Beard Awards, multiple, and the Michelin stars, also multiple. So instead today, we're going to ask Charlie a little bit about the roles he plays in addition to those that are known as chef and businessman, and also a little bit about his place in Sonoma and then the wider world. So we're going to start at the beginning with what is right in front of us and all around us, the hunting pictures. And it would be the story in Sonoma Magazine that features you as a hunter. And the latest of your 5 cookbooks, which is right here, handsomely leather bound. Camp Cooking, which is done in partnership with the Remington gun manufacturer. But I love the way it begins. And I'm not a hunter, and I'm not much of a cook, actually. But this book, and I've had it out, and people thumb through it, and I love it. And I particularly love, but I do words, and I love the way it started. And the one thing you say, and I'm going to read it here. I've worked in plenty of kitchens over the years, some truly magnificent, others only makeshift. And I've turned out plenty of good meals from both. But the best meals I can remember were those I had outdoors. Whether I cooked them there or only served them there, they're the meals that stick with me. So I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about those meals, what you ate, who you ate it with, what the land looked like around you since it was outdoors, and why that memory persists.
Well, I think, just a little bit of history behind the book too, and I know that that may be a question coming up. I was supposed to look at the questions, but I didn't, so shame on me. No, I just think that, I always, since, being a kid, my mom and dad, we did a lot of camping. We did a lot of, we had a trailer, so, I grew up in upstate New York, and we would take the trailer up to the lake, and, we would fold out the sides, simple trailer, very, very modest, and build a campfire, cook on the campfire sometimes, cook on outdoor grills. And then as I got older and I started to hunt and fish with my older brothers, a lot of that involved, cooking outside. And, most people that hunt, I would think, probably more important than what they're actually doing out hunting is what they do afterwards, which is always involves food of some kind. Whether it's food that's brought with you, whether it's food that you've brought intending to cook outside. And I would say probably 60% of the time was spent figuring out what we're going to cook as opposed to where we're going to hunt or what we're going to hunt. So to me, it was always that way. But whether it's backyard cooking, whether it's grilling at a football game, any kind of outdoor cooking, I think that's what this book is about. It's not just about game cooking. It certainly isn't just about hunting. In fact, very little of it's about hunting. My goal in partnering with Remington is becoming an outdoor lifestyle company. So it's not just hunting and fishing. It's about being in the outdoors in general. And I think, whether you're a once a year camper or a hiking person or somebody that does like to fish or hunt or whatever, I think being in the outdoors just in general is healthy. It's kind of like where we live here in Sonoma. I mean, there's something healthy about being outside all the time. New York, I can't say that because it's freezing in New York right now. I got to tell you, I was just there, stuck for a couple days. But to me, those are the memories that come up. And whether it's just having a campfire and making s'mores, to me that's outdoor cooking too, right? Or just grilling something on a stick. There's something primitive about it. But I think it's about being outdoors, being under the stars, being, at sunset, that kind of thing. That really gets me excited. And this is a person that spends a lot of time inside in kitchens. So maybe that has something to do with it too.
That's great. And this is the one I'm asking on behalf of everyone I talked to over the past few weeks when I said desperately, I have to interview Charlie Palmer, what should I ask him? Said, ask him the best meal he's ever had. So I'm asking you this.
Here we go. Here we go. I don't know. My wife Lisa is in the back there. Hi, Lisa. But she'll probably remember this too. But I have a weird food memory kind of thing. I can remember things I ate 25 years ago. I mean, vividly. But I remember this one time that we were in France. And we were just looking at pictures of this the other day, but we were at Michel Gerard at La Ferme and remembering something as simple as this roast chicken that was on the rotisserie and this amazing casual rustic place that he does. Michel Gerard, for those of you who don't know, is kind of one of the 3-star Michelin big shot French chefs of all time. In my generation, it was Paul Bocuse, Michel Gerard, those types of people. But he has this little place next to the big deal restaurant, La Ferme, that's where I really remember the meal. But you know, being in eating in these 3-star, 2-star Michelin restaurants all over France, I have to say that one of the simplest meals was certainly this roast pigeon, crystally caramelized brown skin, whole pieces of garlic roasted with it, just kind of juicy, succulent. You know, when you cut into that, you know, just the juice kind of runs out, a little bit pinkness to the juice, you know, but those are the kinds of memories I have. So that was one of probably 100 meals like that. So I don't know, is there one favorite? I don't know, it's probably yet to be had, so.
That's great. Very optimistic. Well, as you see all around you, the title of our piece was Range to Table. And the woman who wrote it is standing with the cool kids in the back. That's Diane Peterson, who should actually be up here because she had to transfer all her knowledge to me, and she actually really knows it. But Diane told me a great story about you describing, she's got the whole East-West thing going on too. She's from Philadelphia originally, so she's highly attuned to that. And I know you've known her over the years, but that you tell a great story about hunting in the East Coast, the Hunt Club, how very different it is from here. If you could just talk a little bit about what role hunting plays in your life now. You know, how much of it do you do? Where do you do it? And you describe yourself in her piece as a country boy at heart. So if you're still that country boy.
Well, I think I'm the country boy, but I don't know. Some people might say I'm a city slicker now. You know, I think, you know, growing up and hunting on the East Coast when I was a kid, like probably starting when I was 12, 13, much different because first of all, even back then, like wild pheasant, there wasn't much wild pheasant hunting. So, in hunting with your older brothers, a lot of times you were not really hunting with them, you were actually the bird dog. At the time, I didn't realize it, but now, years later, I realized that my older brother, Spike, would just go into the thicket there, you know? And as they were walking down the outside of the thicket, you know, with flushing the birds out, you know, this way or that, and mostly like partridge hunting, you know, every once in a while, I might get a shot, but, you know, it was more like I was like just, you know, I was the bird dog. That's all there is to it. But, you know, the benefits were good. You know, I got to eat, you know, wild partridge and things like that. But like coming to the West Coast, it was much different. I mean, all of you or anybody that does hunt here knows that it's some of the most amazing duck hunting, first of all, in the world, I think, especially definitely in North America. But you know, the wetlands and duck hunting in this part of the world is amazing. And then probably, you know, my biggest, the biggest thing about me hunting, I just don't have enough time to do it, you know, now. I mean, I'd love to hunt twice a week. It's usually twice a month, maybe. So, but we have a great, I was telling some people earlier about this Wing and Barrel, which is a private club over on 37 that's being founded, and I've been hunting at Black Point, shooting, I should say, because it's not hunting. But it's an amazing thing to have here in Sonoma County, you know, that, you know, with regulation and everything will never happen again. It is the only one. So it's important to me that, you know, I'm part of that and belong to that because, you know, I want to pass that down to my kids. Like it was passed down to me, from my dad to my older brothers especially, we're still avid hunters and outdoorsmen in general. So to me it's important. But it kind of plays into the whole food thing too, because, you know, when we moved from the East Coast out to the wine country, and, you know, Lisa and I had fell in love with Healdsburg through some friends and our really good family friends at Iron Horse, the Sterlings, and thought, wow, how cool would it be to live in a place that's this beautiful and this magnificent. But from a culinary standpoint, a chef standpoint, you know, I began thinking, and this is, you know, 15 years ago, that there are very few places in the world, not just North America or wherever, that you're surrounded by as many amazing things to cook with. You know, if you think about it, like Sonoma County with, of course, the fruits and vegetables and that kind of thing, but, you know, Petaluma and its history of being the poultry capital of California. And I'm kind of a historian, especially when it comes to food. the great suckling pig that we get, the amazing like rabbits from Devil's Gulch, and all these things are surrounded, and not to mention 8 to 10 amazing cheesemakers and creameries that are producing some of the most fabulous cheese in the world. And if you think about it, 10 years ago, that was not the case. I grew up on a dairy farm in upstate New York. I owned a creamery and dairy for a while in upstate New York. My partner was more interested in traveling than making cheese, so it didn't really, last a long time. But, I always thought, how crazy is this? Every time I'd travel to Europe, France or Belgium or Italy, and, eat these amazing cheeses, and then as a chef in this country, importing, I don't know how much cheese we import still, but why can't we do this here? We have the best raw product in the world, the most amazing artisanal, organic things to work with. And now you're seeing that happen after 10 years. And I always think too that, a lot of that falls on us as chefs. It starts with us as chefs. If we demand it, if we create demand for it, and we can go to someone and say, if you produce amazing cheese, not only will I buy it and serve it in my restaurant to my clientele, but I'll also make sure that I have my chef friends buy it so that you're fully, so you can produce, as much as you can produce, we will buy from you. And I think that's where the whole supply, demand, and the thing starts to happen. And then, of course, some of the great producers have become even larger than that, and you're buying it in markets and gourmet food stores and things like that. But I think that's where it starts, and if you go back and if you look at the history of food in any country, and remembering that this, as a country, we're still very, very young as far as food. But in Italy, it starts like somebody's producing something great, and that's taken by someone that can get it out there and share it with their guests, with their clientele. And I think that's where it really starts. And I see the same thing with, anything that we're taking out of the ground or we're harvesting or whatever. It's our duty as a chef to make sure that we're dealing with the best ingredients, that we can present them in great ways. And, as cooks, just don't screw it up in the kitchen. Keep it simple. So.
That's great. Well, you've actually triggered a hunting memory I didn't know I had. Yes. So Diane quoted you as saying you have to eat what you kill. But my mother had, I remember my father who would go duck hunting with Judge McGoldrick. We're not talking upstate New York, we're talking 1960s Santa Rosa, downtown, in town. And he'd come back, and she is a very mild-mannered woman. And she would meet him at the door with her arms crossed and said, "Bill, you kill it, you clean it." So that's about my experience with hunting. But there are also those who object to hunting. And we were, as we kept laying out this piece and being, liking it, I like it because it shows a part of Sonoma County we don't often show, certainly in the newspaper. So many people hunt and we don't really capture it, and this did. But there are the others who hate hunting and they don't believe in it. And we got a letter from a gentleman who's canceling his subscription to the magazine. He says, "The reason is simple. We find the feature story on Chef Palmer's joy in shooting animals abhorrent. He is a respected restaurant personality, and we find it impossible to understand how his joy in pulling the trigger of that beautifully engraved shotgun relates to the gastronomy he practices." So what do you have to say about that? And also, do you get any of that blowback from your client?
I don't know if I'd call it blowback, but no, I would have to say, look, I understand everyone has different views of everything in this world, beginning with politics. But I'd have to say that, if someone is dining in a restaurant or eating lunch, breakfast, dinner, any day of their lives, they're probably eating an animal at some point. Not everybody, but some, right? So, I would beg to argue that in a lot of ways it's more humane hunting. First of all, most of us are terrible shots, so there's a 50-50 chance that nothing's happening out there, right? But whether it's being raised, farm raised or whatever it is, there's an animal involved, and I think it's how you look at it, and I think people are certainly have their own views, but I don't let it bother me. It's something I believe in. It's something I practice, but it's also like you're saying, like I don't believe in anything I hunt we eat, period. And I was taught that by my dad and my older brothers, and that's why this book came about. There's so many people out there, hunters, and I think in California in general, I just saw this recently. It's a very, very small percentage of the population that hunt. It's like less than 1%, right? So it's very small. But still, what I hate about it is if somebody goes out and they duck hunt and they don't know what to do with it. They got a freezer full of duck. I want them to cook it. I want them to cook it and enjoy it, and that's part of it. In fact, that's a huge part of what you do if you're out there. So that's my goal, and I'm not gonna conquer everything, and certainly not gonna make everybody happy. But I feel that if I can do that, if I can make people more successful as cooks, they can cook wild game and anything really. To me that's important, and that's that makes me feel good. So. Yeah, we get people like that sometimes. We get somebody that's not happy with the way that Liberty's raising their ducks. It's like, well, I think they do a great job and they're very good at it. But everybody's not going to always agree about things. But I enjoy eating. Some people probably don't really think that winemaking is a great thing either. So, but I personally love it. So I'm gonna stick with it.
Okay, well, we're not going there. But even more than range to table, you're known for farm to table. And you mentioned in general terms some of the artisanal purveyors and the creameries here. If it's a Saturday morning and you're back in town and you don't have all of us here, what farms do you go to? Where do you like to go? You and your family are very much citizens of Sonoma County, and when you go out, what growers are doing things that interest you, that are moving things forward? I'm looking for you to name names here, and I'm also looking for, just if there's anybody outside of the food world, because you are a resident here, anybody who inspires you, who's doing interesting work, good work. It's the Sonoma Magazine Sonoma-centric question.
Well, I think we've gone. Dustin and I talk about this a lot, and I think some of the chefs in the community too talk about it, that we've almost gone beyond farm to table now. We have individual growing partners that work with us. We'll have people that literally we contract to grow. We say to them, look, if you're they'll come in and say, what would you like me to grow? Again, that just doesn't happen in very many parts of the world. But that's where we're at now. We'll have someone that just does tomatoes for us. I mentioned to somebody, we have someone that we buy just Meyer lemons from. Our sous chef supplies 90% of our eggs. He brings the eggs from his home, his little farm, to work every day. Jack, you'll meet him outside. But that's when you get to the point where it's like it's way beyond farm to table at this point in my mind. This is like orchestrating the growing that's going on the plate, and I think that's such an amazing thing. And to answer the question of how do we spread this word? First of all, chefs have to look at what other chefs are doing, and if they don't keep up, they're going to fall behind. And if they fall behind, whether it's publications or whether it's the general public or somebody, they're going to know at some point that, hey, the food that's being served here is much better than the food that's being served at this restaurant, and therefore they're going to support the one that they know the food is better. So I think, as chefs, the good thing about it too, the competition is good, it's healthy. And if I'm growing, and if I'm having, people grow things for me, Michael Mina's got people growing for him now too. And, Michael Chiarello at Bottega, I know he's got a quadri of growers. Of course, Tom's got an amazing garden across the street from French Laundry, but he's got 5 or 6 people that grow specifically for him too. And I think that's where it's really going to go. and again, I mean, that can't happen everywhere. In New York, the growing season is so short that we try to get things started like that, and we do have some things. But in this part of the world, that's where it can really happen. So again, I love the fact that we're here and we have the ability to do that. And the same thing for cheeses. I had a young couple that wanted to start making goat cheese for us, asking how to do it. They never made cheese in their lives. One was a chemist, which is a good start when you talk about cheese making. But now they're supplying 4 or 5 restaurants, and I just think that's a neat thing. That's where it needs to go, and that's where we're going to continue to push it. And who benefits from that? The diner. It really does. That's where the tastes keep growing, and the product. The better the product, the better cooks that we can be. And I think people always ask me, well, where's food going in the next 10 years or 20 years? It's all about the ingredients. That's never going to change. If we can get incredible, pristine, beautiful ingredients, that makes us better cooks. That's the number one factor in my mind. Technology is great, sous vide cooking, all the stuff that we work on, and I spend a lot of time at the CIA and our programs there. We have a new culinary science kitchen laboratory, really, that really looks into how things, the chemical breakdown of cooking and things like that, and that's all good. But if you don't have the ingredients to start with, you're done. So that's where we're going, and that's where we're gonna push it more.
That's great. I'm determined to get you to name a name. So I know most people try to keep up. No, but most people try to keep up with you. I mean, that's your whole thing, I gather, from reading as much as I have about you, is that it's just always the next thing, and it always has been. And keeping it fresh in the training and on the business side, who do you try to keep up with?
I have a lot of good friends, chef friends in the business and stuff. And I have people I have a great amount of respect for, but they're kind of at my old age now. I don't have, my mentors are not alive, but the spirit's always there. Like Georges Blanc was someone who's still alive, but he was someone that I thought really kind of embodied what I wanted to be, that kind of thing. Like Bocuse, I just was with recently, and they're mostly French. My real mentor, who was a Belgian chef that I spent a lot of time with and stuff, that is no longer alive. He taught me really that it begins with respect for food, and then also that how lucky we are to be in a business as great as we are, because that's the other thing, and I tell my sons this, I don't care what they do, but you better be happy doing it, because I see too many people that, I thank my lucky stars all the time that, I'm in a business that, I just go to work and have fun. I mean, this is fun, not that aren't things, I don't want to deal with, and attorneys and all that stuff, but, sorry for the legal people in there. But how great is it to be able to go and cook for a living? I mean, it's kind of like, I saw some actor doing an interview, like, they call this work? This is not work. This is what I like to do. So, you can say it's work, you can say it's business, whatever, but to me, I just, that's the greatest thing in the world, is to be able to just do what you want to do. So, we're lucky.
Well, as much as you love it, it seems like a complicated business. I mean, what motivates somebody who starts out with just this passion for food and ingredients and excellence in cooking to then transfer that to the business world, which, Brendan, I'm sorry, but it's full of attorneys and accountants and strife. And, I mean, unlike some big name chefs, you don't just sell your name to an investor group. I have a colleague who said he was at both of your Las Vegas restaurants a couple of weeks ago, and he said you were on the floor of both of them, one in one night and one another. And so my basic question is, how do you do that? Why do you do that? I mean, what's your week like? I mean, you clearly have that quality control, that hands-on gene. So how do you do that across the country and still be here too? I mean, what's your week like?
That's a good question. I don't know. My weeks vary dramatically. I travel a lot, and that's not easy to do. But you know, I generally spend my time in operations. You know, that's what I tell people. You know, I don't like the big joke in New York is I have an office in New York, in the Gray Bar building, and the big joke is I haven't been there in 18 months. My guys are like, well, you haven't been there in 18 months. Like, why do I need to go there for what? I mean, you know, in this day and age with technology the way it is, I mean, if there's a reason for me to go to the office, tell me. But otherwise, I'd rather be in the restaurant, you know, because, you know, in the kitchens, you know, cooking with the guys and gals that really make it happen, or on the floor, or meeting guests and stuff like that. That's what I really love to do. So I'm very fortunate. But, you know, I think when you get beyond one or two restaurants and businesses and stuff, it's really all about the people. You know, it's all about the people, you know, that you work with. And that's the way I look at it. We all work together. You know, nobody works for me. And I think they feel that way. You know, we work together and trying to do something that's great. And not unlike every other business, the hardest thing I think is to get, you know, to bring people into our family that are passionate. You know, you have to be passionate about the restaurant business, no doubt about it. First of all, you know, you have to be passionate about cooking, because there's nothing glamorous. This whole celebrity chef thing is a bunch of crap. Well, think about it, you know, on your feet, 12 hours a day, in probably some of the worst, you know, conditions, breathing smoke, heat. Not exactly glamorous, you know, sweaty. You know, so you have to really love it to be good at it, I think. You know, and then the other thing, you know, the other big misconception is like, you don't make any money in the restaurant business. It really is tough. I mean, it's not, you know, it's not a big money-making business. And so, again, you got to be passionate about it. But my schedule can vary, you know, dramatically. You know, I travel to New York. I'll be in Vegas. I'm pretty efficient, I like to think. You know, when I'm at a restaurant, in one of my restaurants, I'm about that restaurant. Because people always ask, oh, what's your favorite restaurant? Whichever one I'm at. That's my favorite restaurant. It's like your kids. Who's your favorite kid? My favorite Reed, my favorite Eric, my favorite Randall, my favorite Cortland, you know. Yeah, so, you know, but it's all fun. And, you know, we're also in a very unique, and I say we as a company, we're in a very unique position that, you know, we're not under pressure to do anything. When we do new projects, it's because I really want to do it, that I think it's going to be fun. We'd be able to do something world-class and exciting. And we turn down projects every day, you know, not interested, you know. But, you know, to me, it's like, you know, that's a very unique thing to be in that position too, that we can pick and choose what we want to do. I can pick and choose if I want to write a book or not. We have another one I'm writing, by the way. I'm really excited about. Can't tell you, it's a big secret, but they're always on the back burner, though. You know, they're always like the last thing we get to. Like when I get inspired, it comes sporadically. You know, we start doing it. But I would, you know, that's why any publisher, publishing doesn't work with me well, because they always want a deadline. I'm like, well, when it's done, that's the deadline. And they're like, well, no, we need a deadline. I'm like, you know, we can have a deadline, but then you're going to be arguing with me that I'm not going to meet the deadline. Or we could just say, when it's done, we'll do it. How's that? You know. So you know that's fun. But that's fun for me to do. But only certain times. You know, and you got to be in the right mood. I think you got to be surrounded by the right people too. I mean, I'm a big believer in like this think tank thing. You know, we have 12 amazingly talented chefs, and we have hundreds of amazingly talented cooks. You know, so when people say, like, how do you come up with all those recipes? Are you kidding me? You know, with our group, it's like, how do we select the recipes? How do we select the dishes out of all the things we dream about? You know, that's the hard part, is editing down to like, okay, what goes on the menu? Because we can't have 85 dishes on the menu. You know, so that's another great thing. It's about all this passion, and, you know, the same thing with the wine. Like, my CFO told me the other day, you know, we own, I don't know, $17 million worth of wine. I said, is that it? We got to start buying, you know? I mean, at all these restaurants, we got to have more than that, right? You know, because I'm a big wine guy. I want to make sure we got something to drink, you know. But yeah, but you know, to me, it's like, you know, interesting in building a wine list, and you know, it's such an integral part of the restaurants too. Like, you know, Dry Creek Kitchen, you know, we made a commitment when we opened this restaurant that we were going to be committed to Sonoma County vintners. You know, so there's no wine on that list unless it's grown in the county. And I think that's unique, and it's unique to here. We have, like in Washington, D.C., we have an all-American list. You know, and my guy, you know, my people sometimes are like, well, can't we have French champagne? No. If we're going to be true to what we do, there's amazing sparkling wines being produced in this country. You know, that's our goal. That's our mission, is to present it to people, make sure that people understand that, and have the best of the best that's done here. And, you know, so every one of our wine programs is unique in that way. You know, so you know, each place is different, and we don't really do, as you say, we don't really do cookie cutter. You know, we have steakhouses, but they're all totally different, you know. My guys are like, can't we standardize? I'm like, standardize is a bad word for me. You know, let's be passionate about what we do, and it's not going to be the same, you know, in D.C. as it is in Las Vegas, for instance. You know, so we, you know, we keep it fun, we keep it interesting, and you know, hopefully we'll continue to do that. You know?
That's great. I'm going to just shoehorn in one more question, because you mentioned your sons. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about why you and Lisa chose to raise your boys here as opposed to, well, anywhere else in the country, which was open to you. And, you know, what they might learn here that's different from what they might have learned growing up on the East Coast. I know just a very little bit about the work your two older sons did from my Cardinal Newman stint and my scholarship interviewing stints, building a bakery for a couple of orphanages in the Dominican Republic. And I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit about that and what it says about your world, your global view, and what you try to instill in them.
Well, we ended up here because Lisa and I had a 10-year plan, and I think it